Christopher, you recently did a presentation in Toronto called When the Bullets Start Flying, Critical Minerals in a War Scenario. Did you anticipate what happened this weekend in Iran?
Or I thought people would be offended that I was being too bellicose and mentioning the W word, war, when everyone wanted to sort of think about critical minerals and critical metals as being something that didn't actually have an end game. And now we're sort of like in the end game. Hopefully it isn't the end. But there we are in the end usage phase, which is where these metals go from being a theoretical thing. Let's stockpile these things for a rainy day. The rainy day is here.
And on that rainy day, there was a slide like this. This is an amazing slide. I'm going to actually list it below the link so you can access it for this marketing deck. But you actually list which critical minerals will be prioritized in this particular scenario. Would you like to talk about those?
Yeah, they're the basic metal for war is iron and steel, because ships are made of it, and planes and various other things. The shells are made out of it, and the guns. But when it comes down to the things that are special, the things that we might potentially have a shortage of, that's when you get down into the nitty-gritty of tungsten, antimony, tin, beryllium, rare earths. These are the things that have question marks over them, over their supply. There are no question marks over the supply of aluminium or of iron ore, or zinc or nickel. These other things are, currently all in some sort of crisis of supply before the bullets start flying.
So if you were an advisor or a consultant to the US government today, what would be the number one critical mineral you would tell them to pull up their sleeves and start, focusing on?
Oh, absolutely, tungsten. I saw an interesting video yesterday, as well, everyone in the world's been glued to YouTube over the weekend. And this one was about Iranian missiles, but it could be about anyone's missiles. They are all tipped with tungsten if they have any pretensions towards going through concrete, cement, bunker busters, whatever. They have to be coated in tungsten because tungsten's the toughest thing. Tungsten is armor piercing, and you got to have it if you want to have missiles that don't just sort of like bounce off like rubber bullets.
Well, of course, I know you've undoubtedly written about tungsten. Can you tell us what companies an investor playing the stock market might be looking at? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, well, in the production category, there are really only two listed companies of any sort of consequence. They're Almonty and EQR, both of which have ASX listings. Almonty has a TSX listing. Then you've got those in hot pursuit that are looking to enter the space, and you have Guardian Metals, which is an AIM-listed stock in London, which has two projects in the US. In fact, the only one with projects in the US, one of which, Tempe Uti, which they bought relatively recently, is almost on the verge of being plug and play if they wanted to expedite its move to production. And one would not be surprised if people in Washington are saying to all of their potential and actual suppliers of tungsten, please ramp it up. And then you've got some other stories like, say, Happy Creek Minerals, with a rather novel name, but it's a perspective to be a producer at some point. But all of them, a high tide lifts all boats, and all of them are on the move up, because the fact that you can name all the listed tungsten wannabes in the world on the fingers of your hands means that there aren't that many of them.
Yeah, no, we were just looking at a few new names to me, for instance, recently as well. I believe Allied Critical Metals was one,
Yeah.
and American Tungsten was another one.
Yep. Yep,
both
that's
new
true.
names to me. Also, I was reading a commentary that Jack Lifton did about how the US government is going to have to proceed to actually get some of these critical minerals into production. And the financialization model that he was recommending was that the government is going to have to step in. How do you feel about that, or would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, government stepping in and taking stakes in things or throwing money at them is never ideal. But if we go back, as I did in my presentation, to the First World War and the Second World War, governments commandeered assets. If they thought that someone, whether it was a manufacturer of gun parts or materials that went into the guns, they just put their own people, either on the boards of these companies or as supervisors or liaisons with government, and they said what they wanted done. They said what they wanted supplied, and if the companies dragged their feet, then the asset was taken away from them. And it's not just in sort of like Soviet-style states where that happened. It happened in the West as well. The governments wanted things and they wanted them now. And so the luxury of time has been taken away by events over the weekend.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Christopher. And is there anything else that you would like to add in addition to what you've talked about with regards to tungsten? Maybe comment on beryllium for us, please.
Beryllium, of course, is nuclear. And beryllium is the only metal that the US actually has global dominance in. It has something in excess of 80%, sometimes in excess of 90% in some versions of beryllium supply. And so it's an advantage that they want to keep. So very interesting there that particularly with the Pentagon's intervention, they have maintained dominance in that metal over all the decades that everything else was let go.
For those of you out there that want to learn more, please go to the Halgarten Plus Company website. It is an endless supply of some of the best information on the critical mineral sector in the world. Thank you so much, Christopher, for joining us today.
Thank you.